Hello friends, welcome to my channel Data Making. In this video, I'm going to discuss about a new concept in Docker containerization, which is a Docker Compose. We'll understand what is Docker Compose and we'll try to create a simple Docker file to create a multi-container application. Okay, so let's understand what is Docker Compose. Docker Compose is a tool for defining and running multi-container Docker application. Say example, till now what we saw is we have a we created an image, okay, to create a containers out of the Docker image, or there are set of Docker images available in Docker Hub. So we used to pull the Docker image and run the container. Like we ran a MongoDB service or MongoDB instance as a Docker container by pulling the image from the Docker Hub. We also did same thing for MySQL and Cassandra. So we say example you want to build a application where you want to run multiple services in different containers. Say you want to build a web application. Okay, so you want to run your Node.js application or Python application on some web server, and you want to store your data on any NoSQL database or RDBMS database. So consider we need a web server and also database server. So how do you run two different containers? Okay, so Docker Compose tool used to use us or gives a facility to do this. Okay, so to run a multiple container using this tool. Okay, so we'll understand how to create it, and first we'll see how to install it. Okay, and then we'll see how to create it and run the multi-container Docker application, right? So first thing is let's understand how to install Docker Compose. So basically you just go to google.com and say Docker Compose. Okay, so Docker Compose, if you see here, install Docker Compose. So for Windows and Mac, so Docker Compose comes by default when you install Docker Desktop or Docker Toolbox. Okay, so for Linux you need to install it by using a set of commands. So in Windows environment you can go to command line. You can actually type, you can verify whether Docker Compose is installed. So you can just say Docker hyphen compose space hyphen hyphen version. So which will give you the Docker Compose version. So I already installed Docker toolbox in my Windows operating system. I'm using Windows 10 Home Edition, so I cannot install Docker Desktop. So I installed Docker toolbox. So if you want to know how to install it, I have a separate video for that. You can just go and refer in the Docker practical tutorial playlist. Okay, so now it is there in my Windows. So let's also check it in Linux, and we'll install the Docker Compose in my Ubuntu virtual machine, right? So let me log into my Ubuntu virtual machine. So I will open my terminal, already opened. So just same type, I'll type same thing. So it is Docker hyphen compose hyphen hyphen version, right? So the Docker Compose is not available in my Ubuntu because I have a Docker, but I don't have a Docker Compose, right? So I have a Docker installed the 19.03.5, but I don't have Docker Compose. Let's install it. So what is the command to install? So there is a GitHub uh, repository. You need to use that, and you can install the Docker Compose. So there is a command, curl command, to pull the libraries for Docker Compose, or the set of packages for Docker Compose. So it is downloading the necessary packages for the Docker Compose. So once this is downloaded, then we'll start you can start the installation, right? So basically it is kind of downloading, and just you just reference it the path where you want to install it, right? So it is downloaded now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is basically just so this will be in usr local bin docker as docker-compose. So basically we downloaded here and put it in this location, the Linux location. So if you want, you can go and check it. So just copy this path, do ls here, it is there, right? So just one step back, I'll go. Docker compose is here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I just set the permission for this. Okay, so what is the how to set the permissions? Basically sudo chmod hyphen plus x uh, just give the permission for it, this location I given. So let's now run the docker compose command, docker hyphen compose hyphen version. Okay, so now the version which I installed is 1.25.4 docker compose version. So what we will do is first we will create a docker compose file. So there is a naming convention which you can follow. Basically for docker file we used to say docker file, right, as a file without extension. Like for docker compose, the naming convention used was docker hyphen compose dot YAML, they call it as YAML. Okay, YAML file. Okay, so before that let me create a directory called demo docker compose. I'll just say demo docker compose. Okay, I'll just go to that folder. I'm just doing it in my home users home directory. Okay, okay, so I am here. So let me create, just to do touch of the file name docker compose. So the file is created. Because I'm on Ubuntu, I just use the nano editor to edit this file. So I'll just copy paste. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one docker image for running my web server, another image for running my database, which is MySQL as a docker container. Okay, so two container I want to run, so I'm going to build this in docker compose. If you go to the docker hub, just I'll show you the images which I'm going to pull it. Docker hub. So there you can actually have any different any type of docker container for your application. For sake of simplicity, I'm just using one web server as a one container and one database server. So if you come here, Nginx is one of the famous proxy or web server. Okay, and also I'm going to use the MySQL database. So these two images I'm going to use it. Okay, so I just open these two in a separate window so that I will give some information about those image. So basically if you look at here the Nginx. Okay, so it is what we are going to pull is the Nginx. The image name is just Nginx. Okay, and MySQL we already checked. This MySQL is the image name. We are going to use these images in my docker compose. That's why I'm just so I'll just say version as just you can give the version like version colon the version number, and in here service we are going to define a services like your multiple containers in images. So you can just simply say I'll just for now you ignore this port and the environment. I'll just create a simple docker file. Okay, so just come here, I'll just paste this and also I'll just delete this. I'll tell you why this is needed. Just a minute. Sorry for the interruption. So just what I'm saying is basically so I will come to this ports other stuff. So if you can actually create a simple docker compose file just having a version and services and two docker image which you want to pull it and run it, right? So one is Nginx image and is the MySQL. So only this is the name I'm just giving. Okay, this can be anything, web server, web or whatever. This kind of uh, database I'm just giving for this service. So MySQL is one image container I'm going to run, another is Nginx. So you just create this file. I just say I'm in using a nano editor control O for right and X for outside. We just created a simple Docker compose file, right? So let's validate this file. So how do you validate? There is a command docker compose config, which is used to validate your YAML file, right? The docker compose file. I'll run this. So if it is valid, it will just show you the content of your Docker image. Sorry, Docker compose file. Okay, so once it is validated, now we can actually run the Docker compose. How do you run? You just say Docker compose up and run it as a daemon or a detached mode, right? So I'll just say Docker compose up and d. So this will so what I'm saying is localhost is not running. Okay, so what is the problem? I could not connect to Docker daemon. Okay, is it running? So let me check this. Or do you check sudo docker images? It is there. Then what I will do is, okay, should I use sudo for docker compose? Let me check. Yeah, so basically as I told you before, docker command cannot be used directly because my user is not part of the docker group. Okay, so I just used sudo for it. Just make note of it so that I'll give this for you people to refer it in my blog. Okay, so sudo, this also it had sudo. So it is going to so it is going to pull the docker image, right? And then so basically two images could download MySQL, Nginx. I think it is downloaded already, so it is downloading the so it is creating the images, right? So it is the docker images are downloaded, right? So now what you are going to do is Nginx and MySQL just verify whether docker images are come. So how do you run? Check it, sudo docker images. So we have previously we had MongoDB, Cassandra and Hello World, three images. Now we have additionally MySQL and Nginx, right? So now let me check. Ideally it should start the um, when you say docker compose hub, it should start the, you should download the images and start the containers. Let's check whether it is running. Docker docker ps is the command which shows you running container. So we see there is a one container running for Nginx. Okay, so the port number for Nginx is basically 80 I'm sorry, something got stuck. Okay, so localhost and 80 is the Nginx default port number. It is not there. 80 also I will try. It is not there because I have not actually exposed the Nginx port to the host machine, right? So you can log in and you can check. So basically, how do you log into this container? You just say docker docker in interactive mode. Just say container ID and say bash. Okay, so what did I miss? Sudo docker, sorry, exe I miss it. So we are able to log into this container, right? So we are able to log into this container, the one which is running the Nginx, but we are not able to access the Nginx, the web UI, which is 8080. So that's why we need to add this port. So so we need to add this for Nginx. And why did a MySQL container is not run is basically you need to, when you run a MySQL container, you need to provide the root password. That's why it does not run. So let's modify our Docker Compose file. Okay, so I will open it in my um, go to home directory. I'll just use the notepad to change it. Docker Compose here. So I'll just change this. So this is done. Now I'll come back to the terminal and validate it. How do you validate this? Sudo or docker compose config, right? Okay, so it is validated. Now let's okay, stop this. So how do you stop the your Docker Compose is using docker sudo docker compose down. Let's stop the existing containers. So say sudo docker ps, no container is running. So again run the docker compose up in the detached daemon mode. Now it is going to run the Nginx and expose the port 8080 to the 8080 to the local port number, and also the MySQL database, right? It's MySQL database also as a container with the root password, right? So again check the docker ps command. You see there is a two containers running. One is the Nginx, another is the another container for MySQL. So let's go to the web UI. I'll just say localhost 8080. So the Nginx service is running. So we are able to access the web UI. Similarly, you can actually expose the port number, right, 3306 to the port to the local host port number, and expose the host port number, and you can able to log into the MySQL. So this is how we need to actually create a multi container Docker application using Docker Compose. Okay, so you can stop it using the Docker Compose down. So this then we'll check nothing is running, right? So I hope this video is helpful to you. Excuse me. So we are able to actually install the Docker Compose on the Linux machine. Windows and Mac, it will already install when you install the Docker uh, uh, toolbox or Docker desktop. And we were able to install it on Linux machine, and we were able to run the simple Docker uh, compose file to run a multi-container application as a service, right? And we are able to start it and shut down the containers using the Docker Compose command. I hope this video is helpful. Please subscribe to my channel if you have not done before. Thank you so much for people who are supporting me always. See you in the next video.